Hello guys, welcome to CoderCrab. So today we'll discuss about Async Await, a very much essential topic in JavaScript. So Async Await basically will be utilizing for certain functions where we are going to utilize some resources or some APIs to get some data, maybe reading some files or reading a post API or get API. So we are going to do that and get some data. But some of the code would be dependent on this. So we would be executing those codes after this async, right? After this async await. So that's why we are using await to wait for that operation, right? So to understand this thing, we should be knowing some of the topics around it, right? So one is synchronous versus asynchronous, one is callback, one is promises, right? So let's go with the first one, synchronous versus asynchronous, right? Okay, let's start. So as we know, JavaScript is a single-threaded and synchronous programming language by one each time, right? So if we'll let's say we'll put a function here, function calculate, and in this calculate I'll be taking two arguments, a comma b. Then here I'll be taking a console log. So console.log, here I'll be putting, let's say a is a or a. Here let's say b is b. Okay, and then I'll return a plus b. That's all. Then another function we have, function, let's say in progress, calculation in progress, nothing but console dot log, and we are just putting calculating. Okay, next one function to print the result, function print, and we are printing res. Here we are putting console dot log, then we are putting result is res. Now what we'll do is we'll call these three functions one by one. So let's take a variable res and calculate with some value 4,5. Next is in progress. So we have cal in progress, okay, and then print with this same res we have just calculated 2 lines above, right? So now if I run this function, you see, pretty simple. That is spelling mistake. So here if you'll see this, it started with this, they started with this one, and then it went to this one, and then it went to this one. So basically how did it execute this? Okay, so if I'll just explain this, let's understand this part. How did it execute? So as this is an unload function, so unload event on. So event loop started. So event loop is responsible for this kind of thing. So event loop started this execution, and in this, the event, what did it do? It put one by one each function to the call stack. So let's say it is your call stack. So this is your event loop. Okay, so what this event loop is doing, event loop, so event loop saw like the first function which is called on line number 24, one line by one line, it is running, right? So first line it saw 24, line number 24, that is here calculate. Okay, so this calculate function, it pushed to the call stack. So calculate came here, then it got executed, then it popped out of the stack. It is done. Then it called call inp function. It pushed here, it executed, it popped out. Then it went for print, and it pushed it, it executed, and got popped out. So now call stack became empty. So if you want to see these three actions, let's go and see the three actions as well. So we'll just open this source. I'll put 3 breakpoints inside 3 functions to see them in call stack. So if I'll see this call stack here, okay, now if I'll refresh it, so first time it came to the calculate function came into the call stack, Once I hit it, it went to call np, inp I think. Okay, call inp, then call inp, then it went to print. Print came to the cost. So this is pretty simple for a synchronous function. There is no asynchronous part here, no asynchronous block here. It is simple asynchronous. It is simple synchronous code. Okay. Now, if I will change and put this call inp inside a synchronous block. Let's say I'm putting it set. I'm utilizing a very common function called set timeout. It has two arguments. First argument is a callback function or anonymous function, whatever function you can take. You can take a named function also, and the second one is the delay. So it is in millisecond. I put some 5000 millisecond inside this. I am calling this function. Okay. Now let me take these things out. Okay, and we'll see the console. Now what is happening? Okay, now what is happening? Right? You see, this got executed, then this got executed, then after 5 seconds this calculating is coming. Okay, so what has happened now? So in our call stack, the first thing which started, it pushed the calculate function. Okay, so the calculate function came in, got executed, got popped out, then it saw set timeout. Once it saw the set timeout, event loop will redirect this particular thing to web API. Okay, and this will be executed here. Okay, with the delay. So if you have given a delay, it will wait for that delay and gets executed here. And then that is done. The event loop's work is done here. It has sent it out from the print stack, from the call stack, right? Now it would go for the next function, which is print. It is immediately go for print, and this part is not its task, right? Then print will be pushed in, print will be executed, print will be popped out as it is. Okay. Then the let's say we have more functions here, synchronous function, normal synchronous functions here. It will also be pushed and popped as usual. Still the event finishes, till the onload event which we started is finished. Okay, till that time it will keep on running. Okay, and parallelly this thing is getting executed somewhere else, which is a web API, right? So this web API is executing it, and if it has a callback in it, that callback would be pushed to a callback queue. Okay, this will be pushed by that time it is running, this is getting also executed, and that data is coming into the callback queue. Okay, so once the event loop sees, hey, my call stack is done, it is an empty stack, it will go and process the first guy and bring it and do whatever you have done inside that function. Whatever you have console log, it will be printed here. That's what has happened here. Okay, so if to demonstrate this thing, if I'll put a loop here, a big loop which takes some time, right? So let's put a simple loop here. I'm just putting a simple loop. Let's say after it is printing, I'm just putting a for loop for let I equals to 0, I is less than some 10,000 would be enough, right? And then I plus plus, and what I'm doing is I'm just printing console.log, then wait. Okay, so if I run this, you see it is counting, right? By the time this particular set time is gone to the web API and getting executed there, right? See, it came immediately. Once it's finished, it was waiting in the callback queue. The result was waiting in the callback queue. Immediately hit the event loop. Immediately brought that and put it, right? Put it to the console. This is how your asynchronous works. So if you are working with asynchronous, okay, along with some synchronous code, you need to understand that that is going to be separated out to the web API and it would be executed there parallelly, and the rest of your code will be executing. So don't be surprised with when you see this your asynchronous part is coming in a different sequence. Okay, obviously it will be coming in a different sequence according to your events, once the event is done, once your synchronous codes are done, it will immediately be pushed in and you will see that data, right? That's all guys for asynchronous versus synchronous. So the simplest thing about callback is you have to pass another function as a parameter to a function and utilize it, right? So why we will use this kind of structure? When we don't know how much time it will take for a particular operation to take. So once that operation completes, like an API call or reading a file or whatever you are doing, if it finishes, you are calling back another function. Okay, that control you want to have. So let's see an example, right? So let's say we have a pretty simple function. Let's not go to the asynchronous way of it. Let's see a simple example where we will use the callback, but the more appropriate will be with the asynchronous function when you are going to call an API. That we'll see in next, right? So let's see it for a simple function. Let's say we have a function calculate. Okay, similar function calculate. You have two variables a and b, and what you are doing is you are calculating the value. Let's say console first. Let's console it. Console.log. Then here we'll put adding a that is a plus b, that is b. Okay, simple thing, right? Next, you are here, after you are adding two values. Let's say you have another value. Let result equals to a plus b, right? The simple action you are doing, and after this, or let's say return, let's return this value directly. Return this value directly. Okay, now you have another function print. Okay, in this function you are taking the result and printing it. Dot log result equals to res. Okay, now how would you utilize these two functions? You will just call calculate. Here you will put something, let's say 4,5, and let res equals to this, and now call the print function with res. Okay, so pretty simple example. The previous example only, it is coming as 9. Okay, this is fine. Now what if I don't want to utilize this, I don't want to print this function right here? So what I'll do is I'll take this function and I'll put it here, right? And I'll remove this, and I'll introduce one variable here which will be utilized here, and then I don't need this value. Only one function will be enough. This is also fine. Okay. Now, can we do something with it? Instead of doing this thing, can we do something with callback? Yes. Here, what we can do is, here we can pass the print function directly. Okay. And here we can take the same function with any variable name. Okay. So I've just given callback. So instead of doing this print, you can directly do callback. Right? See, same result. So this is how callback is. This is not where you should utilize it. There is no benefit here to utilize, but this is the way how callback is done. Okay, in a simplest way. Okay, now let's see. So we have understood what is callback. Okay, with the simplest function we have understood. Okay, what is callback? Now, if we'll go for promise, and we'll understand the promise and we'll utilize callback with it, we'll achieve something. Okay, that we'll see next. So there's one problem with callback is if you have a hierarchy, like you have multiple callbacks, the callback hell gets created. Okay, that's a very popular word, callback hell. So it may come in interviews. So that is how it happens. Let's say here we are using the print function as a callback, right? So we are throwing the print function at calculate function as a parameter, and then we are calling it, right? So let's say this print function takes another parameter. Let's say it is called callback 2. Okay, so now this is a function that we are expecting here, right? So now, so we need to create another function. Let's say this is called function print end. Okay, here we are taking some value and we are putting a console log, simple console log, and we are saying by sm. Pretty simple, right? So now this function would be called for this callback, right? So here it would be called like this. Now callback would be utilizing the same thing, and let's say we are, it's a hardcode value, it can be parameterized as well. So let's say this is the name you are passing, right? You can see why that name is coming, right? So in this case, you see what is happening. We are calling calculate with the first function. This is a callback. Then this print function, which is taking another callback, and that callback also we are calling with some other value, right? So there is a hierarchy getting created. Now, if callback 2, like I'm in the print end, would take another callback, this chain will go on, right? So that is called callback hell. It becomes unreadable, and if somebody has written this and you would come and visit the code, it won't be that much of understandable, right? So the maintenance of this kind of code becomes very difficult. So we need to avoid this kind of thing. So the best way to avoid this kind of thing is use promises. Okay, so let's go and check promises. So what is a promise? A promise which is kind of promising to deliver a result, whether that is your resolved result or a rejected result. But when it promises, it delivers, right? So let's take a simple example here. So we are taking an arrow function constant, and here same calculate. Let's take same calculate here, and I'll put two variables as arrow function. I'll put an arrow, I'll give this, then I'll return a promise. So to return a promise, you need to create a promise. So let's create a promise, and promise takes two params. What is resolve and another is reject. Okay, so it's an arrow function. So here, then here, what we'll do is if your b, that means denominator, is equals to 0, type match is equals to 0, then is not equal to 0, then resolve. I'll put result is, let's say, a divided by b, right? Else I'll reject. Cannot divide by 0, right? Pretty simple. So let's call this function calculate. So let's console.log calculate. I'll put, let's say, 4,2. Okay, you see, it is returning a promise. This is not a value, it's a promise. Okay, and the promise status is state is fulfilled. Okay, these are these two, but this is not a value. So how to get this value, right? So here we need to utilize some prototype function of promise. So what is the prototype function? Then is it then, right? Dot then. Okay, here in this dot then, what we need to do, we need to utilize a response which will give, let's say, console dot log response. Okay, see here simply it is giving the result. Let's take out this console.log, which is not required anymore, and I'll put here. Okay, so result is this one. But when I'll pass 0 to it, what will happen? You see, uncut exception. So how to catch this exception? Let's put a catch dot catch here. Let's say I'm giving err variable name console dot error. Okay, and I'm putting err. Okay, so you see that error is directly coming here, which is a rejected, right? So this is how you should create a promise. You should return from a promise, and from another function or another place from a function or wherever you want to call this function, you should utilize this prototype functions. But there is one difficulty here. Okay, promise is good. Okay, promise is very beautiful thing, and it is very good. But the only thing is when there are multiple promises, like inside this, let's say we have inside this, then what we need to do, let's say we have another we have some other function or something, right? So let's say we are taking this particular thing and this response from it. Let's say we are taking this response. Okay, let's take it. Okay, let's take this. We are taking this value. Okay, and whatever value we are getting, the same value we should include inside another one. So let's say we have another another function const let's say formula calculate. Here we have certain formula, we get some value, and then we use certain formula to deliver. So return again new promise. So we are having another promise to be returned, promise. Okay, and this promise also takes two parameters like that: resolve, reject. You can give another name if you want. Here you can then, if it is, so let's say we are resolving it, right? Resolve whatever value would be coming here. Let's say if the value is greater than 0, then we should resolve, else we should reject. Okay, so reject with 0 is not acceptable. Okay, so let's say this is the message, and here what we are doing is we are taking C, we are doing some into 3.14, let's say pi's value, then plus 78. Okay, some particular calculation we are doing, and we are sending this value. Okay, so now how would I get that, right? So let's see here. After getting the response value, what I need to do is I need to call another one, right? So here what I'll do is I'll call the which function? This function, formula calculation, right? So what I'll do, I'll return formula calculation with this response. Okay, so once I return this value, okay, and let's keep it 2. Okay, so now 2 is returned, this is printed. Now I'm returning the formula calculation, right? So if I'll, as I've got this here, I've got this then, right? So this is returning something. So again I have to put then. Okay, in this then I'll be putting another response 2, and this response would be returning some other value. So console.log, here let's put another response 2. Okay, and here if I'll save it, you see another data is coming. Now if we will have another similar function like this, which is returning a promise, again we have to put another then. So you see how it is becoming then inside, then it would keep on increasing. So this is called promise chain. So if promise chain is getting formed, it would complicate your code, right? And to solve this, we are coming with async and await. So let's see that. Now let's utilize the similar approach, but we'll utilize async await, right? Instead of this then, right? So how we can achieve that? So we can utilize a async function and two keywords here, right? Async keyword and a await keyword, right? So let's see. Similar const call function equals to here and here this. Inside this we need to put async. Okay, and this function here, what we need to do is we need to utilize a await keyword to get it, right? So let's put it. So let's say const response equals to await. Okay, then what is the function we are going to utilize? Calculate, and here 4 comma 2. Let's comment out this step here. Pretty simple. So now the response has come. Okay, so let's see dot log and the response. Okay, so let's call this function. Call function. Result is 2. Okay, pretty simple. Now if you will see, this await is waiting for this. That means it is not getting executed. So this async function knows that I have to wait for this calculate. Okay, so that is how you can replace a await a call. Okay, you can replace a promise dot then everything to with this one. Now there is one challenge. If I put 0 here, what will happen? See, it is uncut. So what you need to do? How would you handle this? Simple normal try catch block. There's nothing special. You can utilize a try catch block here. Put a catch block catch function here, err. Then you can easily do a console log console.err console.error. Here you can put an error. The error is err. Okay, you can clearly see it, right? It is very really and this is clean. You see this difference between this and this one. It is pretty simple. There is no issue in it. And if you want to use a chain, that is also pretty simple. See, constant res2 equals to again await. It will also wait for this function formula, the second function formula cal. Inside this you will pass the first function's value. Right now if you want to console that also, let's put it here. There's 2. Okay, let's give a valid value, that is 2. You can see data is coming, right? So this is cleaner approach than this then, right? But it's just a synthetical sugar. Now let's utilize the callback and promise together, okay, and create a function. But this time we'll utilize the real APIs. Okay, so let's create a function. So const, let's say API one equals to here. Let's for now let's not write anything. I'll create a function, and here let's put the famous fetch API. fetch function, and inside that, as we know, we'll utilize a get URL. So we have a dummy get URL here, nothing required. You can utilize post, anything you want. Okay, then here dot then, right, and we'll get a response. But as the response we have it here needs to be in a data format. Let's say JSON or something would be getting returned, right? So let's say response dot JSON. Okay, so we are returning this response dot JSON. Then after this we need a callback, as we are utilizing callback with the fetch. So let's see. So const I have, let's say, data processor. Okay, this is my callback function equals to, I'll be receiving the data, and then I'll utilize the data to do some processing, let's say. So what I'll do is, for now, I'll just console log the data dot log. I got the data, and that this is the data, right? Okay. So this particular data processor I'll be calling here only. So callback, let's utilize a callback variable. Then inside, after this dot, then again here resp callback. Here what I'll do is I'll utilize this callback function. Inside that I'll pass this callback. Okay, and now if I'll call this function API fun, let's see, API fun with callback, that means data processor. Okay, let's see. Okay, so what we are doing is, you can see here we are calling the data processor got the data, and it got the data here, which is a JSON, right? See, okay, this is the result we got. Okay, so this is how we are using the callback, data processor callback here, and we are calling it, and it is pretty simple that we have the data back into our data processor and we can manipulate it easily. And this data processor is waiting for this API fund to get completed, I mean this fetch API to get completed, then it is returning the result response, and then it is converting to JSON. After that it is feeding the callback function. Okay, it is that simple. Now can we convert this thing with async await? Surely we can. Let's see. So let's stop this loading. Let's create a const here. Const API fun, let's say fun2 equals to this create arrow function, simpler. Again same fetch API call with this same URL. Let's put the same URL here and here, but here we need to wait for this, right? So let's put await. Once you put await, you will get an error that you have not put async. So let's put async here. Now you just put const response equals to this value. Now this is a promise, so we need to convert it to JSON, right? Const response underscore JSON, as we have to wait for this page. Again this also wait for this one, otherwise it will start executing, right? So let's wait for this, await, it will wait for resp. Okay, dot JSON function. Now it will console log this, you will see the response would be there. It would not be pending or something, it would be there, response. Yes, this. Okay, let's see. We need to call this function, so let's call this function. Okay, now you can see the response has come here, and this is cleaner. Okay, cleaner than this part, right? And this is how you can utilize async await easily with a async function. Async, you need to put await, and if you are receiving something in non-JSON format, again use await and convert it and then utilize the data happily, right? So this is how you can utilize async await to call an API. Okay. Thank you.